What happened? Diabolo?
Okay, what's he saying?
Diabolo means devil. I've never seen anything like this. Multiple attacks without eating its prey. Lions don't do that. At least no lion I've ever seen. Go back to the calls.
Dad, please!
The best collectives here stretched the elastic of their culinary sounds as far as they could. My duty is to support and nurture their vision.
What made you want to be in a culinary collective?
Sound always excited me.
Silence from an audience was always my fear.
Lei ha tappeto sul filo. Un rigore disse, senza non mettere plaudo de panna su tutto.
It was very new at the time, and still today.
He opens up the visuals.
You hear his music, you know it is Ennio.
Can't be anybody else.
It's not just popular, it's an anthem.
We always come out to that, and we always leave to that. Deep, deep, deep emotion.
I don't think anything is worth what happened. I don't just mean the dead one.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another Schlock and Awe Quickie review. As always, I'm Lindsay Wilkins. Well, it's over. MIFF finished all 7 days worth of over 250 movies, and I tried to squeeze as much as I could get in. I was very tired by the end of it, but I had a great time. If you don't know, basically this is when Melbourne goes film wild. All the festivals kind of come onto Melbourne at once, and there's a lot of movies. This portion of the second review, MIFF review, is it's kind of got the heavy hitters in it. This was part of the section where the movies I was really most looking forward to were absolutely on, like Park Chan-wook's new one, Hirokazu, I'm always going to butcher that, Hirokazu Koreeda's new movie. Also, a chance to get Amanda Kramer in. The new Benson and Moorhead was showing. I mean, there was just a lot, so we might as well get into it. Firstly, I did see a new release, Beast, and wait till I butcher this name, directed by Baltazar Kormaku. Now, he directed the likes of Everest, so he's a very kind of scenery-esque type director, and he directed, of course, Beast. Elba punches a lion, and yes, this is what he does. This is a movie that does exactly what it promises on the tin. It is a lion attack movie. A lion has lost his pride for poachers, and he is not happy, and he's working through his issues. Albert and his family happen to be in the way, along with Chateau Copley. Look, it's a really solid attack movie. I went in with really low expectations because Universal really does not have much confidence in this movie. But, you know, it was fun. It did what it was job. I jumped when I was meant to. I laughed when I was meant to. Yes, there is a lot that is really dopey about this movie, and unfortunately, Chateau Copley has to have a lot of those lines. Like, there's always one character that has to get all the dumb exposition lines. This is Copley's job. Law of the Jungle is mentioned, even though they're in the African bush. And I think they actually did at least go to somewhere that looked like Africa. Not a green screen, filmed in a parking lot in Atlanta, which was nice. It was kind of got this very natural nature descending on human beings kind of thing. And I do kind of like that genre. For me, the standouts were actually Leah Jeffries and Elena Haley, who played Alba's daughters in it. I think they did really good job. So yeah, look, it's actually worth a watch. I don't know if you have to rush to the cinema to see it, but at least rent it. It's a fun night. I mean, it's a really pissed off lion, and it's no matter how angry he got, I still wanted to give him a scratch because he is a lion and he's cute, even though he will maul you given the chance. Okay, so with that, let's get on to what I saw at MIFF in the final week, which actually ended last week. I needed to sleep a whole week to get over it. There's a couple of movies I did end up missing. Meet Me in the Bathroom and Ennie's Men, because I was just too tired. But I did see a lot, so let's get into it. The first one I'm going to go into is a documentary from last year to 2021, The Real Charlie Chaplin, directed by James Spinney and Peter Middleton. Yeah, it's really good. It is a documentary of the great silent film actor, comedian Charlie Chaplin. And what it does is interesting because it kind of brings Chaplin into the modern times. So, therefore, yes, the man was a predator. He had a very nasty habit of getting teenagers pregnant, then marrying them. This happened multiple times. I think all but one of his wives wasn't a teenager when they met. Yeah, so it kind of contrasts that to the working class hero that he was always, now is portrayed. At the time, he was actually banned from the United States because the tramp, as his character is known, started talking about workers' rights and how the rich don't pay enough taxes. And, oh no, Charlie Chaplin's gone woke, which is actually kind of brought up in the movie. It's through dramatizations of certain aspects. So you do have a reporter standing up and going, I liked it when the tramp didn't speak because now he's bringing politics into his work. This is, of course, a little bit after he made one of his best movies, which I really love, called The Great Dictator, when Chaplin decided to take on the monster of the 20th century, Adolf Hitler, because they had the same moustache. The movie does really trying to lean into the fact that these two were almost parallel figures in pop culture. At the time, I didn't actually realize they were born the same year, let alone like 4 days apart, but anyway, the moustache was actually kind of fashionable at the time. I mean, mainly because of Chaplin, I guess, but I don't know the history of the moustache. But anyway, it's worth a watch. It's a little rough here and there. I think there is sometimes a danger in bringing in past figures into, sometimes, not always. If you're talking about the better times in the 1950s, there was already movements that were starting to happen. Actually, exactly like the 1920s. But I think there's still a little bit of a losing context for some of this stuff, except for his predilection for teenagers. That is a typical Hollywood predator, and it is a power move. Because, like a lot of auteurs in the day, he was a control freak, and it's really easy to control a teenager. And all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'm ranting on. It's actually a fascinating documentary, and you're going to want to watch his movies afterward, even though I think it's a bit rough around the edges. Another movie that I saw after that, which is actually a movie that's kind of sneaked up on me since I saw it. I kind of liked it fine, and now sometimes you start thinking about it, and that is Plan 75, the first full-length feature by director Chi Hawakawa. Just a warning, this is when I saw a lot of the foreign language movies. I will be butchering these people, and I apologize. This is kind of loosely based on the idea that I think in 2000 in the mid somewhere of a massacre in a retirement village. Because this guy was very nationalistic, he thought because Japan had a very large aging population, which is something the world is having to contend with, especially in Japan, that they should sacrifice themselves. It's always easy to say that someone actually sacrifice. And yeah, you know what? This notion did come up again around the pandemic. But it is a government has installed a program that I'm saying this in air quotes, voluntarily allows people to choose to die after the age of 75. To hope, and it's never called a genocide. It is genocide of the elderly. They're trying to get rid of them so they don't have to support them anymore. So they give them 1,000 yen for their last week or couple of weeks. They get to go to a swanky resort, which you find out isn't really that swanky. It's literally a hospital. And then they will be put to death. It's a really interesting movie. I really liked it. I think some of the visuals are a bit too blunt, especially when you have because it's different characters kind of within the same system, like the guy who signs people up for it, the woman who will work there as an orderly and then go through their possessions and find out what is valuable. Yes, again, speaking of Adolf Hitler, we've seen this before. We have, and also a really great performance by Chico Basho, who gives us amazingly beautiful performance as this woman, 78-year-old woman, who is starting to run out of options. And through her, it's when you really see the walls starting to close around her, that they don't want to hire elderly people, therefore they don't want to rent out flats to elderly people. They make it really hard to go on social welfare. They're kind of taking away all your options, so that is your final option. It's a really powerful movie in a lot of ways. I think still a little bit rough around the edges, but Chi Hayakawa is someone I think you should watch out for. It's a really interesting first full-length feature. Now we're going to get on to the really good stuff. Park Chan-wook's new movie, Decision to Leave, was at MIFF. And even though I know actually a lot of these movies are probably going to get releases, which is great, but I am not going to not see this movie. And I loved it. I really loved it. I think Park Chan-wook is just one of my guys. As soon as there's a shot from a dead guy looking up at a mountain, it's from his POV, I was like, I'm in a Park Chan-wook movie and I'm really happy. It's wonderful. It's essentially a very well-told, it's a story that has been told many, many times of a police officer who falls in love with a suspect who he suspects of killing her husband. It does have a little bit of Verhoeven vibes, as well as quite a bit of Brian De Palma and especially Hitchcock, which if you've seen any Park Chan-wooks, you know Hitchcock is someone he goes back to. And yes, there's a whole bunch of Japanese A Wife Confesses, which I have not seen, and I did not write the director down. He also did like Toys and Giants and The Blind Beast, which I do need to see because I've heard that he's also an influence, and I just have not seen enough Asian cinema. Yes, I've seen all the Western cinema, but I haven't seen enough Asian cinema to really get the other influences. And I loved it. But this movie isn't about raunchy sex. It's about intimacy. These two flirt with each other, and they kind of want to get to know each other, want to know each other's secrets. There's this amazing scene where they eat sushi for the first time during an interrogation, and the way they tidy up, it's flirtation. It is about why you fall in love with someone. What are the things about yourself and that are tragic to you that make you fall in love with someone else? And when it's a cop who has Sherlock Holmes-esque instincts and attention to detail, it is someone he can't figure out. This is starring Tang Wang as the suspected wife, who is amazing. She's a Chinese actress. You may know her from Long Day's Journey into Night, where she plays the kind of guess the femme fatale-esque character. I don't know. I was very tired when I saw that movie. That's another Past Myth movie. Very good. Very slow, which seems to be a thing of Chinese cinema from what I've seen. And also Park Hae-il as the cop and suspect. Look, I love this movie. I'll be very surprised if this doesn't show up in my top 5. Very surprised. I don't know what's going to beat it at this stage. This is, I've heard people say this isn't as good as The Handmaiden. I mean, but how do you compare The Handmaiden to anything else, even other work that Park Chan-wook has done? It is very long. It's 2.5 hours. But yeah, if you like any of his other movies, if you love De Palma, Verhoeven, Hitchcock, you're going to want to see this. It's done in this beautifully gorgeous, intimate way that will kind of left me stunned at the end of it. It's a movie I kept smiling at, even there are moments, it's very funny. Like, it is actually very, very funny. But there are moments when I should not have been smiling in this movie, but I was like, I'm in a Park Chan-wook movie, people. And that gets me on to the other movie I was really excited about, super excited that was playing at MIFF, and that is called Something in the Dirt, directed by Arron Moorhead and Justin Benson, also starring Arron Moorhead and Justin Benson. It's wonderful. It was penned, as anyone who kind of follows their career, you know that they are, coming up with the world from their very beginnings, from Resurrection and Spring and Endless. They have gone on to direct episodes of Moon Knight, yes, and I am the one person who really likes Moon Knight because I did not read the comics, didn't know who he was, and all I saw was a superhero, mummy, god kind of thing. And also I think they're going to direct an episode of Loki, and they're coming up. So with the pandemic, they can't do anything. They literally found a shitty flat, got some of their friends together, and made a movie. And Something in the Dirt is It's my kind of movie. It's cosmic, it's conspiratorial, it's actually... Moorhead, Benson have actually become really great actors. They really... You can see them actually getting better, and it's amazing, especially Moorhead. I didn't actually think he had this performance in him, but go Arron. And... yeah, it is literally these two guys who are kind of really down on their luck. Life has not gone the way... well, does it ever go the way you think life is going to go? No. But they are kind of at their bottom end. They're living in a shitty LA apartment. And then something happens in one of the guys' apartments. And it goes from there. I don't want to spoil too much, other to say that, yes, there is a very much a Under the Silver Lake DNA, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan of Under the Silver Lake. So that kind of following random patterns and the history of LA, this random bizarre history of LA that never is real. It never is. It's just kind of what people make it up to be, because that is, you know, the city of angels. It's LA. It's never quite what you think it is, but it's really strong. It goes into some really amazing cosmic area. You're left wondering what the hell you just watched a little bit at the end of it, and you want to talk about it because there's so many possibilities of what this actual movie is about and what it's trying to do. I think Benson and Moorhead are just such strong directors, and I kind of hope they keep going back to the independent. I mean, yes, they may get their own Marvel movie one day, which, by the way, yay, I'm so over Marvel at the moment. But I hope they keep going back to that really core making movies with your friends kind of thing with it. And yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. This is one I cannot watch again. What to watch again? Because of how it unfolds, I want to see the different elements to it. Another movie I was really looking forward to is from my another favorite working director, and that is, of course, Peter Strickland with his new movie, Flux Gourmet. Freaking adored this movie. I mean, like Benson and Moorhead, I'm already in the bag. I mean, Peter Strickland can make the weirdest, witchiest kind of movie, and I'm going to love it more. The more witchy he gets, the more excited I get about his movies. And Flux Gourmet is pretty freaking witchy. But it's ridiculous and earnest in the same respects, and in the best way. On watching it, I didn't know Sonic catering was even a thing. I found out later that even Peter Strickland was in a Sonic catering band, which is basically making noises out of preparing food. Because of course he was. This is the kind of thing Peter Strickland would have been into in the 90s. It is essentially about this band who are already tearing apart, becoming part of a collective and getting a grant to make their art. It kind of just goes from there. Essentially, Peter Strickland wanted to make a movie about the body, so he made it about angry bowels, Sonic catering, domestic feminism, and shock value of modern art. It is absolutely amazing. Gwendolyn Christie is a freaking queen in this and can wear a hat that would make Vincent Price jealous. Fatma Mohammed is back in it. I think she's been in all his movies, and she's amazing at this egotistical artist. Ariana Labid, who is, funnily enough, Yorgos Lanthimos' wife. As I said, I'm butchering a lot of these names today. Wow, he went up. She looks like Kristen Stewart. She's amazing in this movie. It is such this joyful, earnest, nerdy kind of movie. I mean, swear, every single time a character, Richard Bremer, who plays a dodgy-ass alcoholic doctor, reaches for another glass of wine at the most inappropriate moments, it just got funnier and funnier to me. It is a hoot of a movie. Again, I'll be very surprised this probably movie doesn't enter my top 10. This is what happens at MIFF. Most of my top 10s usually come from the festival. But it is a delight of a movie. It is weird. It has no point. It is all that conjuring or witchcraft. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Now, another... I also saw Give Me Pity, directed by Amanda Kramer, starring Sophie von Halsberg, who also happens to be the daughter of Bette Midler, which they used to full effect. This is literally about a woman who's got one woman variety show back in the 70s and 80s that had those variety shows. Something I kind of missed, but I kind of get the essence of, and this is what this is. And it slowly becomes more surreal and more comes apart as this woman who is desperate for fame realizing that there's this demon around and it is slowly crushing her. Though that's kind of not what I got out of the movie. What it really more feels like, it feels like it feels like your inner voice that can swing from wildly narcissistic to deep self-hatred. There's often no in between, which I related to. Well, and now I'm just thinking that just could be me that feels this. But no, it is about that constant inner monologue that you have in your head, that you have to do better, you have to look better, you have to do this to be perfect, you have to, why are you such a loser? All this kind of thing. And I think it's a really good performance from Sophie von Hausberg. It's, again, one of those, it was kind of, I saw this the same night as Flux Gourmet, and it was just kind of one of those things where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm finally getting into the midnight portion. I haven't really been seeing a lot of those movies, and I'm finally just getting into pure derangement. This is not, again, the first time this movie's been done, but I'm really keen to check out Amanda Kramer's other work, especially Baby Come On. I think it's called that. And with Andrea Riseborough. So I'm doing this off the top of my head, which always turns out wrong. And yeah, no, it's definitely worth a watch. It's 120 minutes, so it's not going to take much out of your life. And I think it's an interesting movie. Now to another heavy hitter. Hirokazu Koreeda. I pronounced every syllable of that. Yes, I did. His new movie, I saw Broker. Now, this is a guy who also made Afterlife, The Truth with Brigitte Bardot and Ethan Hawke, and he also directed one of my favorite movies in the last 4 or 5 years, Shoplifters, which is a gorgeous Dickensian movie about this very poor family in Japan who are not necessarily a family. It is, for me, Koreeda he's at his best when he's kind of making movies about a collective family or people, a mishmash of people who find a family, but are also making terrible choices or making really bad moral decisions, but for the right reasons. And this is Broker. It is essentially about two guys one is the great Song Kang-ho and also Kang Dong-won, who are selling a baby on the black market. And it is because there is a church which accepts abandoned babies. And if the note says, I'll be back, they will keep the baby in an orphanage. They will not put this baby up for adoption. And they want to make sure this baby has a good family and a loving family. And also, if they can make some money out of it, that's, I guess, a bonus. But it is... So, yeah, these are generally... Song Kang-ho and Kang Dong-won, are playing essentially good-hearted people. And there's this family that they kind of, with the birth mother, they kind of create this family. And as I said, if Shoplifters is an incredibly Dickensian movie, and this kind of feels the same way. And like anything, if you've read any Dickens, it can be bloated, really weird subplots that go nowhere, and just kind of wildly all over the place. And this is a little Broker. There are a few strands I don't exactly know when completely needed to tell this story. But what he does is he showcases Busan. He's a Japanese director who likes to go other places. So he's directing a I think he's Japanese. Anyway, he's directing a South Korean movie at this point. Questioning everything now. But when he shows Busan in this amazing, amazing sweeping light, as you can see the mountains, the beaches, this ramshackle cities, the low street level, the different people who populate this area. And I love that about that. He's the same thing as Shoplifters with Tokyo, is that these kind of very low level streets and these kind of people who are living way under the poverty line and how they survive every day. And the exploitation that is needed to do this. And this is a very similar thing. I really enjoyed the movie. I think it's got some really strong performances, especially from Song Kang-ho, who is kind of always great. Also, Bae Doona, who you also might know from Bong Joon-ho's The Host and also Sense8. She's really good in this as well. Yeah, it's a really solid movie. If you like anything with Song Kang-ho, definitely watch it because I don't know, he's just got this calmness about him. It's wild. Yeah, but no, it's really good. I'm going to recommend a movie that I didn't love, but I think Del Catherine Barton is actually someone to watch, and that is, of course, Blaze. That's got a general release already in Australia. It is... Look, I think the movie overall is muddled. I think the first 10 minutes are some spectacular filmmaking. It's arresting, it captures your attention straight away, and tells you what this movie is going to be about, that I don't think the rest of the movie lives up to. It is violent, it is horrible, and you really get in this mindset of this young girl who witnesses a brutal piece of violence. Julia Savage, who plays that young girl, is really good. Del Catherine Barton is a visual artist, and that comes through in her work. It is so visually arresting. It is beautiful. It's creative. It does go into the surreal. I just don't think she quite... The movie doesn't feel like it's matching the reality with... Not that the reality has to match the non-reality of the movie, but they don't blend, is probably what I'm trying to say. But no, it's still, I think it's still worth a watch, even though I'm only giving this a lukewarm recommendation. As I said, Julia Savage is great. Josh Lawson is on this weird trend now where he's playing the worst people in the world. And yeah, there's also Simon Baker. I'm still not convinced of him as an actor. He's fine. But at least he's choosing some interesting projects in Australia. And I ended the festival totally movie nerding out on the documentary about Ennio Morricone called Ennio, directed by Giuseppe Torrento, who of course directed the much loved Cinema Paradiso. Look, it's Ennio Morricone. He's one of the greatest movie scorists and just maybe composers of all time. He is, okay, fine. He's up there with Beethoven. What do you want from me? He's great. I mean, he's created some of the most recognizable pieces of music that even if you have not seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, you know that wah, wah, wah. It is a complete love fest. It has everyone from his contemporaries to other Italian directors, to other directors, Clint Eastwood, Quentin Tarantino, Hans Zimmer being the most pompous man on earth. That was not a shock, by the way. That was... Like, oh yeah, of course, that is exactly how Hans Zimmer would describe everything. It is kind of one of those things where you just get to nerd out for 2.5 hours and you're happy for it. I didn't realize that he only won his first official Oscar for The Hateful Eight, which is a score I listen to a lot. And though they did sort of go through his losses, and I did feel sorry for the guy who, you need to see this movie, I can't remember what the movie was, this poor young man who dared to win the Oscar above Morricone's score for The Mission. A movie I haven't seen, but I do know the score. I've always thought, so yeah, again, I know the scores, maybe not the movies, but really, you're going to give The Last Emperor score over the Untouchables? Really? Okay, that's the one I have questions about. It's just like, have you heard the score on The Untouchables? No, Morricone felt like a very nice man as long as he was getting his own way. The amount of times he would fling abuse at great directors because they wanted something else, or the amount of time that he actually hated what he was doing because movie scores for the European composer community was slumming it. And to sort of have this rise of, oh no, you are now the most recognizable because people know your work and you are an amazing composer, I think is quite an interesting journey. But the amount of tantrums he threw at Sergio Leone about, oh my God, to be in a room where those two were screaming at each other. Oh, that would have been amazing. Anyway, that was the movie it ended on. It felt incredibly fitting. And that was MIFF. But just before I go, I did see some retro movies. I always see some older movies that play at the festival, mainly because I can't really see them anywhere else. Or I'm just like, oh shit, I've always wanted to see that movie. Like, actually, 3 of them I had never heard of. Yes, I had not heard of Ghosts of the Civil Dead, directed by Jill Hillcott, the man who would go on to make The Proposition and The Road. Yeah, you can see that in Ghosts of the Civil Dead. It is one of the darkest... It is an incredibly dark movie. It is literally about this futuristic prison that is there as a private business, because that's always a good idea. And it is the slow process of dehumanizing these people further to the point where they will go out just to go back into the system. It's creating it's essentially making more product. It is a very dark, grim movie. I love how these men already start off broken. And you just have these things like how TV and entertainment and exercise and basic, like, human things to be human are taken away, and to the point where it's all completely gone. But you see that these men are already, I mean, the pornography they're allowed to watch is just violent at the beginning. And this is at the beginning. This also has Nick Cave coming in, being a psycho who's rubbing shit all over his walls. Yeah, I mean, it is the process of dehumanization, which a lot of prison movies are about that. But this really takes it to the next level. I also saw 2 movies by, I'm going to butcher this name, Marta Mizarosa. She is a Hungarian director. I saw one of her first ones, Don't Cry Pretty Girls, which is essentially what it was like in being young in Hungary in 1969, 1970, and the folk scene. I don't like folk music. I really don't like folk music, so I couldn't quite connect to it. And it's a really great historical document, but I just couldn't connect to it because everyone seemed... Yeah, I don't know. It was very much a first movie. But then I saw The Heiress from 1980. Holy hell, that movie is incredible. It is about a very wealthy woman who decides, because she cannot have a child with her husband, that a friend of hers, who is a shopkeeper played by Isabelle Huppert, who I think was speaking Hungarian in this movie. It's insane. She is going to bear her husband's child so they can have a baby. She literally says, or at least in the translation of the movie, I'm going to buy this woman. And Isabelle Huppert is also Jewish, and this is 1930s Hungary. So I'll let you go on from there. A movie filled with dialogue, and as the movie goes on, the dialogue slowly runs out. It's like when you're at the point of when you really need to talk, there is no talk. And I think it's this really gorgeous kind of thing of what happens to society when it breaks down, when there are important issues you need to talk about, but you just don't talk about them because, 1, it could get you killed, and 2, everything's gotten to a point where everything's fractured. It is a really incredible movie. Just from the difference between 1970 and 1980, I do need to see more of her work. I also saw a Czech movie from 1963 called Cassandra Cat, aka When the Cat Comes, which is about, it almost feels like a live-action Disney movie from the 1960s. You could actually kind of put it with, say, that Dan Cat or something, and it would kind of fit. It's about this small village somewhere in Czechoslovakia, as it probably was at the time, and just this small run community with your pompous leader, your school teacher who's trying to teach the kids imagination, though the schoolmaster does not want imagination taught, which is, I'm still confused how this... They got a special one at Horizon Khan. Still wondering how no one was arrested. Maybe they were. I don't know. I didn't do that much research. I was like, was people arrested making this movie? And all of a sudden, this traveling kind of act comes to town with a cat wearing sunglasses. Okay, how they keep holding the cat kept annoying me, because cats do not like being held by the scruff of their neck or by their under their armpits. Support the bum, please, when you're holding a cat. That's just, please. And don't put a hood on a cat. They don't like it. This movie does that as well. But anyway, when a cat looks at you, it shows your true colors, whether you're in love, whether you're a liar, cheater, or a complete narcissist. And so, of course, chaos ensues, and it's all up to the children to save the town, to make them come to their senses. It's a gorgeous movie. I just wish they didn't put a hood on a cat. Don't do that to the cat. Yeah, and the last one I'll talk about for this whole thing, I think I've probably spent way too much time talking about movies, as I usually do. But I finally got a chance to watch The Spirit of the Beehive, directed by Victor Heiress, I think. A Spanish movie from 1973. Oh my god. I can understand why Guillermo del Toro keeps trying to remake this movie. It is sublime. It is perfect. It is gothic. It is dark. It is vengeful. It is a gorgeous movie. Essentially, two young sisters see Frankenstein, the original 1931 Frankenstein, for the first time, and how that movie resonates them throughout their life, and how they see everything afterward. How an abandoned house in the middle of a field in Spain is where the monster lives, or is he in the well? It is about how experiences change after you can see a movie, and especially when you're young. It's a movie that you watch 3 times to get through her interpretation of, because there's something happening with the parents that's kind of in the background that you don't get a lot of information about, but it's very blatantly there. And then you get what's happening to the kids, and the main kid, Anna Torrin, is absolutely incredible. She's got to be maybe 6, and it's an incredible performance. And how the gothic spectre is Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster. Is he a monster? Is he a friend? Is he something to inspire you? It is. I don't know really how to talk about this movie because it is so good. I think it's on a Criterion. It used to be on a Criterion. I would love a copy of this so I could just rewatch and rewatch. It is absolute perfection in Gothic style movie making. It's not exactly horror, but there's definitely that Spanish Gothic going on, and yeah, it's a perfect movie. It's one of my discoveries of the year. Same probably with Ghosts of the Civil Dead. That movie is absolutely incredible, though you will just stare at a wall for an hour after you watch Ghosts of the Civil Dead. Just a warning. And considering I had to go to that station very soon after watching Ghost of the Civil Dead, the station, because it's a Melbourne movie, when it ends on, I had to go down that same escalator, and that is a trip. But no, MIFF was wonderful. I'm so glad that I could go back into the theater and experience all these movies, experience it with a crowd, especially the Flux Gourmet crowd was amazing. You could hear a portion of them really getting into it. The other half was confused. I was on the I love this side. It's amazing to feel the energy of that, and I'm so glad that I get to do this. Hopefully, again, we haven't had it for a few years, but the fact I get to go back to it, and it's still around, and it's just a celebration of movies. It's tiring, it's exhausting. I eat too many cheeseburgers. I've just eaten a lot of salad this week. It's a wonderful thing, and it will be back next year. I'll get to see more movies. And there are some movies that I'm actually going to have to catch up with that I didn't get a chance to see. After Sun is one. Oh, Funny Pages. No, that was not food for thought. It was actually Funny Pages. I've heard very good things about it. So, yeah, I will. It is Men. I'm definitely going to have to see. Meet Me in the Bathroom. Yes. All the movies I didn't get a chance at MIFF because I was too tired. But anyway, thank you for this rant. I think it's gone way over than I intended. But we will be back with another Quickie review. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.